back to the Apartment 6 podcast. I'm Jess.
And I'm Marissa.
And guess what?
What?
It's our last episode of 2020 because we are taking the month of December off.
Woo!
We are. Not that this is a job, but
ain't nobody paying us for this.
Ain't nobody.
Where's my paycheck?
If anything, we're spending money on this podcast.
That's true.
That's the truth, and that's what you got to do for art.
For the clout.
So, yeah, we're taking a month off because of two reasons. One, I'm going to New Hampshire for Thanksgiving and staying there through Christmas because it's safer COVID-wise to, instead of going like back and forth, to see my family really just like just being like immediate family. It's safer to just stay there, and obviously it's like I have the flexibility with work, and you know, it's safer with COVID to not go back and forth. It's also safer to be there instead of like in the city and in the apartment, and so I just feel like I might as well just be in the country for a bit.
And there do be a dog there.
And there do be my little Penny there. And I want to spend time with her because she's old and her health is getting worse. And I just want to make sure that I spend a lot of time with my little 15-year-old baby. Yeah, so I'm shipping off to the country for a bit and like isolating there. So that's a reason. Mm-hmm. But then also Marissa just kind of wants to take some time.
Yeah, I feel like it's like a natural, not that we're like professional podcasters, but I feel like it's like a natural thing in the podcast world to like take the holidays off, do some reflecting, do some hanging out, holiday time, and then come back with a vengeance in the new year.
Yeah, I just feel like it feels like this time of year feels so busy and so rushed. And so like even with COVID, it's like it still feels like so I don't know, like rushed and just like energetic, like the holiday season.
There's like pressure that comes with it too. Yeah.
That I just feel like it's nice to like not think about things.
Yeah, I feel like one of the big reasons we started this podcast was to have like a sense of purpose and like an activity during quarantine, and the holidays are like their own sense of like purpose and like occupying our thoughts and stuff. So we're focusing on those. We're gonna have a good end of 2020,
and also just like ending the year like is so like it's busy. It's a really busy time at work right now for both of us, and so I just feel like my headspace is pretty taken up. So yeah, I'm looking forward to taking the time off and kind of like brainstorming ideas for future episodes, because I also do feel like lately we enjoy doing this, but we haven't been like excited to sit down and talk about something.
Yeah, I mean, in a very like numerical way, it's like when we first started this podcast, we had a big list of topics, and as we've like checked things off, we have much less options for topics, and we're not really like giving ourselves the space to think of new ones to add to the list.
Right.
So that's another thing we can do during this time, and you guys can help us with that. We always appreciate getting ideas from you guys. So if there's anything during this time, if you're missing us and you're like, I really wish they would do an episode on this, or I really wish I could hear them talk about this right now, you can always DM us, text us. I mean, if you have our numbers, you can text us. But if you're one of our like 2 fans that listens that doesn't know us in real life, then you can always DM us.
True. But today is not about that. Today is not a recap of 2020 or anything like meta about the podcast. Today is just a good old-fashioned sitting down talking about a topic, the topic being how to get over, I don't want to say, I guess, a breakup, but like how to get over people, like how to move on after
How to move on is a good.
After getting your heart tangled up a little bit in
Yeah.
someone else. It's not even about like getting your heart broken. It's just like, because we both have talked about how we feel like sometimes it's not necessarily the person that like you're in a relationship with and breaks your heart that really sticks with you. It's just like someone who like you let yourself get tangled up in for a little bit. So we'll be talking about that today. But first, Marissa, what's your thorn?
My thorn, for lack of a better thorn, because I didn't prepare one, is that we think our puzzle might be missing a piece.
It's true.
And like, honestly, that's the worst. Like, obviously there are many, many worse problems to have in life, but if you're doing a puzzle and you think a piece is missing, damn.
It's our last edge piece. We have the whole edge is done except one singular piece. And like okay, I'm going to call you out for a second. Marissa has been known to put things together that don't actually go together.
It's true. It's
so
true.
But
I won't even deny it.
We've checked and we're like 100% sure everything else is fine on the board and that we're just missing this one piece. It'll come up as we like do the center of the puzzle.
Isn't that such a like metaphor for life though? Like, it's like sometimes there's just that missing piece.
Mm-hmm.
What is your thought?
I also don't like have
I always feel funny with like when we don't say real thorns on the podcast, because it's like I promise that we like deal with things, you know what I mean? Like, it's just so funny, like me being like the most wrong thing in my life this week is that our puzzle is missing a piece. Like, that's obviously not true, but it's just sometimes when we don't like prepare one, it's like, what's bugging me right now?
There have also been times where like things have happened that have been very clear thorns for me, but like I don't want to talk about them on the podcast. Like like that has happened like multiple times in the last few months where like I haven't said what's really on my mind because I just didn't want to.
Sometimes you just got to give a silly thorn.
Yeah. I feel like my thorn is just that I'm happy to be going to New Hampshire, but that's hard for me. It's hard for me to just like be like, yeah, I'm going to go like live there for a month, like in my mom and her fiance's home, because I just am like, I have such like FOMO. Like I'm always like, no. Like I need to be like in my space. Like I remember when I would go home from college, I would be in an ever loving hurry to get back to college because I'd be like, I miss my friends. Like, what are they doing? They're probably hanging out without me, like whatever. And so I just feel like I'm going to miss Marissa. I'm going to miss the apartment. I'm also sort of like, but what if I want this one thing and I didn't bring it? Or like, I don't know. Like, I feel like unsettled because of that. Like I have like a Target shipment coming in and it's like not stuff that I need, but it's going to get here after I leave. And so I'm like, Marissa, can you bring it in my packages? And like, it's like not stuff I need.
Bring in your packages.
Yeah. Like it's not stuff I like need like for, like right away. Like I purposefully, like if I'm buying anything for Christmas, I'm like sending it there, but I'm like like I don't know, it's just weird. So I feel like this like tension in my body because I'm like, I'm leaving my home for
you're
like a
just
whole
like
month.
You're truly relocating. Like it's not like a little visit, which is like what we're used to. It's like you're relocating for a month. Yeah,
and it's also like 2 hours away from here, and I don't have my own car, so like my mom has to like come get me, and then
which is part of why it's nice to stay, because then she doesn't have to do that again for Christmas.
But I feel like if I were going home to like my childhood home in like Wilmington, I would just be like, oh yeah. But because it's not that, like nothing is ever gonna feel like home to me truly, besides that one house that I grew up in. And so I feel like it's just different. Like I still sort of feel not like a guest. Like I'm not treated like a guest. I'm treated like family. But you know, it's like, I don't know. It's just different.
It's
so I'm like, whereas like here now feels the closest to home I've ever felt.
Yeah.
Besides, you know, where I grew up.
Yeah.
So yeah. But what's your rose?
On a similar vein, my rose is I'm grateful to live close enough to my parents that they can pick me up to go home. Because we were talking about this week that like that's all we're comfortable with right now. Like we wouldn't be comfortable getting on like a train or a bus or a plane or whatever. So the fact that, I mean, this goes for both of us, the fact that we are able to be picked up in a car by the people who we're staying with is just really lucky. Like I'm grateful to be able to do that. And I feel bad for the people who would want to go home but would have to like get on a plane to do that. And they're like, well, I can't be going on a plane right now. Because like I wouldn't get on a plane right now.
No, I wouldn't either.
So I'm grateful for the geographic location of my home.
Yeah. That's true.
What is your rose?
My rose is just that like I often experience like holiday blues, and that was something I planned on doing an episode about and just like didn't get to. But I haven't really experienced as much I don't want to say seasonal depression because I'm not depressed. I mean, I also take an anxiety medication, so maybe I would experience it if I didn't, but I do experience like definitely like the seasonal sadness, and holidays play a role in that, and have since I was a kid. And this year, I think because of COVID, it's taken some emphasis off of like togetherness and off of, because literally people like don't get together. And it's taken some emphasis off of like just feeling pressured to have the best year ever, the best holiday ever, like things like that. And so like it's kind of been, there's more of a feeling of like, if you can enjoy this holiday season at all, that's a win because of COVID. So I feel like as of right now, I haven't really been experiencing any holiday blues. That's really nice.
Yeah, my other possible rose was going to be that I was feeling leading up to like, I guess November, that I wasn't really feeling the Christmas spirit that I usually do. Like I'm kind of the opposite, where like I usually feel super into the holidays and like super excited for that time of year, and like I really get into it, and like I was not feeling that way this year. So I was like, am I ever gonna feel that way this year, or is 2020 just gonna be like a bust? But because you're leaving, we decided to kind of like force ourselves to get into the Christmas spirit this weekend, to like have some of that before we part ways. So that was really nice, because that like ignited the spirit in me that I was like, I don't know if I'm going to feel that this year.
Yeah, we we watched a couple holiday movies. When I say watched, I say that lightly.
Peripherally watched.
Yeah.
But they were very like dumb ones.
I like actually watched the first one. The second one I did not watch. I was so focused on the puzzle. That was it. And we like made hot chocolate and ate peppermint marshmallows covered in dark chocolate from Trader Joe's.
Our Christmas candle.
Oh yeah, we have our Christmas wreath candle going. Marissa busted out her like Charlie Brown tree.
Yeah, you don't need much, but it really helps.
Just being together makes the holiday season. Yeah. Well, okay, so getting into today's topic, we're talking about moving on.
Yep.
After heart tangling, as I've now called it.
I like that.
Yeah, well, I just feel like heartbreak sounds so extreme, given some of the, like, I know some of the times that have hit us the hardest have been people that were in our lives for the shortest amount of time.
Yep.
And there's definitely a reason behind that we're going to get into. And also I wonder if there's like a psychological, I think the reason that we experience it, like we explain it pretty well, but I also wonder if that's like, if that has a name in like psychology, because I feel like we're definitely not the only ones who experience that. But yeah, I just feel like heartbreak kind of sounds extreme for those types of cases.
Yeah, and I like the metaphor of like, when you think of heartbreak, it's like you think of like needing to like put yourself back together and like find the pieces of yourself. But Like tangling is more like
You have to
you need
untangle
to
yourself.
untie the knot. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
you have to like unravel.
It's less extreme.
You have to untangle so that you can be on your own again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is kind of like an example of one of our like unscripted episodes where we're just
Apartment 6, unscripted.
Yeah, we're just kind of chatting. So you recently, it was your thorn last week.
Mm-hmm.
You said I had my heart broken.
Which actually, if we had come up with this rhetoric, then I would have said I had my heart tangled.
I wasn't ready for it then. I didn't.
Yep.
I didn't have that thought then.
Mm-hmm.
So this has been one of the times I've seen you hit the hardest.
Yeah.
In recent mem. Can you explain why?
Yeah. So first of all, I think I like briefly explained the situation last week, but just to refresh, I went on a date, a really, really good one, and I came home and I was like, oh my goodness, that was so great. Because like I've had a real bunch of dud dates lately, just like guys who I'm like, yeah, there's nothing there, and like we both know it, we part ways, we never speak again, it's great, whatever. But this one was not like that. I left the date and I was like, oh my god, like this could be my guy, like this could be my next relationship, this could be someone I have a something with, no matter what it is. And yeah, I felt so hopeful. And then he had like told me that he was like not a big phone guy and wasn't a big texter, so I wasn't hugely surprised that he wasn't talking to me much for like the few days after the date. He said like 2 things to me, but even that was enough for me. Like I was like, okay, he didn't ghost me, like he said something. Clearly he's like trying and like thinking of me in some small way. So for like about a week, it was like that, where like a couple days would go by, he would say nothing, and then he finally would, and I'd be like, oh, it's okay, we're good. And then a couple more days would go by, and then I'd be like, then he'd text again, and I'd be like, oh, it's okay. So,
you know, can I pause you to say one of the things that I want to stop you and touch on is how frustrating it is that, and I told you this at the time, that a guy or, you know, a significant other, it doesn't have to be a guy, although it is for us, but it can do that to us, that we can be like, oh, everything's fine now. Like we can be like anxious for days, being like, wait, what did that mean? Why did he text me right after the date, but then didn't technically say he wanted to see me again, and then stopped talking to me, but then he said he responded to this and blah, blah, blah. And we could spend these days over analyzing and being like, oh, I think it's over. He didn't text me. And then he texts and we're like, oh my gosh, so everything's fine. Yeah. Oh my God. Like, I'm going to go like buy a new outfit. Like all of a sudden it's like, and it's like the fact that we get like that, and that someone has that like power over us is so frustrating to me. But I don't know how to get rid of that, because I experienced that too, and I don't know how to get rid of it, because it's not necessarily like a lack of self-confidence or esteem. Like it's like I'm someone who gets my hopes up really easily. So I think I've always sort of linked it to that. Like, oh, I just get so hopeful that I start like imagining things, fantasizing about things. And then if they aren't responding to me, I kind of like don't know what to do with it. And then when they do respond, it's like they take away that disappointment and like they build up my hope again. I don't really know.
Yeah, I feel like it's because we're people who are kind of like incapable of being apathetic.
Ugh,
like we can't have that mindset of like, oh, fuck him, like it doesn't even matter, like I'm fine on my own.
Yeah, like, we will say those things, but it's not true.
Yeah, we can't like truly dismiss stuff like that. Like it's gonna bother us until it's solved.
And I think part of it too is that it's not something we would do, so we like can't understand it, and so we like spend all this time trying to analyze it, and then when they just like text us back, we're like, oh, and there was nothing to analyze. Everything's clearly fine. Yeah. Yay, I feel good again.
And if that's what you really want, like if what you really want is to continue talking to this person, then
you don't even care.
Giving you that shred of hope is like, okay, I'm getting what I want.
Yeah, you don't even care like what happened in the last few days. Yeah, I just wanted to pause you and like talk about that for a second, because that is a huge part of what makes this your situation, but also
Yeah.
the situations that have hurt us in the past really difficult, is that we have been like playing that game of
like wrapped around someone's finger.
Yeah, like they're able to control our emotions with just like that little text or lack thereof. And there's a song called Walking on a String by Phoebe Bridgers and Matt Berenger from The National, and it says, "You've always had me walking on a string." And I love that because that's what this reminds me of, is like this person who barely they don't even know you, and yet they have you walking on a string for them. Anyway,
it's too much power.
It's way too much power, and it's in a
gross.
way, it's not even that they have it over you. It's that you
like
have
allow
that
it
over yourself, because it's not that they're necessarily even the best person in the world. You barely know them, right? But you're like, the idea of them being what you think that they could be to you is what keeps you on that path, because you're like, but if he's exactly like, if we could be the way that we were the other night, that would be amazing. And that's like what keeps you like walking on that string and like keeps you, you know, when they text you back, you're like, oh
you're
my gosh, and
like,
you get
okay,
back into
you
get back into the fantasy. It's not even about what they say, or it's so hard. Okay, go on.
So he would, you know, not talk to me for a couple of days, and then he finally would, and then whatever. After this went on for about a week, I texted him and I said, "Hey, I don't know where you're at, and I know you said you're not a big phone guy, but I wanted to say that I'm interested in seeing you again, and I didn't know if you felt the same way." So that was like maybe like a Tuesday afternoon or something, or evening, and he like didn't answer me all that night. And literally that night, I made an appointment for a haircut the next day because I had that Wednesday off. Because I was like, oh my God, I feel like what we were just talking about. Like, I was like, I hate how like I feel so powerless and like so gross and not confident about this or whatever. So I was like, let me make a haircut appointment.
That is like one of those tropes that's true.
It's so true.
Like, we do change our hair because of men. It's true.
So then the next day I woke up and I was like making breakfast or whatever, and I finally get a text back from him, and it says whatever crap, like, "Hey, sorry, I wasn't on my phone," kind of whatever BS. And he was like, "I had a really great time with you, but I unfortunately, as if it was like out of his control. Unfortunately, I started seeing someone else a couple weeks before I went out with you, and it's getting serious with them, and I'm going to pursue that." And then he went on to be like, "Hope you're enjoying the nice weather we're having."
Yeah, F off.
So I like had a very like extreme reaction where like I read that and I just like started crying heavily.
I would say like a guttural reaction.
Yeah.
I think that's
so I like made a noise that Jess heard from her room, and then she came in, she was like, "What do be going on?"
I was making my bed, and I just like, I heard this noise that was kind of like, it was kind of like a cry out.
Maybe like a whimper.
Yeah, like it wasn't like you were like, "Ow," but I heard a noise that could have been like, I don't know, like it could have been like someone outside like being like, "Woo," but like it also could have been like loudly, or it could have been like a soft from inside, kind of thing. And I was like, I stopped what I was doing, and I was like, I think I stopped making my bed for a second to listen, and then I heard like
tears.
Yeah, like I heard something that was more like normal distress, and I was like,
normal distress.
Yeah, like
your average everyday like, Wednesday morning distress.
Yeah, not like the like, oh, it's not like you were then like, oh, like it was like it just kind of like it petered off kind of thing, and I was like, oh. And so then I like walked out and I was like, "Marissa?" And you didn't respond. And I was like, oh, she's got to be crying. Because why would you not respond?
Yeah.
Because I knew you were in the kitchen. I could like hear you making breakfast and whatnot. So I was like,
damn veggie sausage.
And so if you were like, yeah, I'd be like, oh, it's someone outside. But because you didn't respond, I was like, I'm going to turn this corner and I'm going to see a disheveled woman. So I did. I turned the corner. I was like, what's wrong? You just were like, read this. And you like put your phone in face. And of course, he's a fucking Android user. So it's all like broken up text.
Well, that's another part of it. Because like I was like cooking and my phone lit up and it said I had 8 texts from him. So I was like, oh my God, like me still, like this shows how hopeful I was. I was like, oh my God, maybe like the reason that he took so long to answer is because like his phone wasn't working. And the reason I have 8 texts from him now is because they're all like flooding in at once because his like signal came back or whatever. Like until the very last moment, I was like still so hopeful about it. And I was like, this couldn't possibly be a rejection. This has got to just be a flood of missing texts.
Yeah. But instead it was like 1 of 8. 2 of 8,
like sentences broken up.
Yeah, it was. I couldn't even like. I was trying I was like trying to read it, but I was like, my eyes were like all over the place. So I was like so confused. I was like, what is this? Bunch of crap. That's what.
Load of malarkey.
Yeah. I really felt for you because I've gotten the same type of text and had the same like gut punch reaction where I've been like, oh my God, this shattered the illusion so hard. Like,
yeah, that's like my most recent example. Do you want to talk about like an example? Maybe not most recent, but like just one that stands out to you.
Sure. So the example that I can think of that's really similar to that in terms of like delivery was, and I guess sort of in timeline. So I went out with this guy. I went on 3 dates with him. I guess like 2 like went out dates, like got dinner or whatever. But then the third one was like he just like came over, watched a movie, like, you know. And so and like, you know, got to know each other more. And so I was feeling more invested. And he had said things to me like, yeah, I mean, this is going really well. Like, I really like you, you know. If this keeps going this way, like, because I think I maybe asked him like, what exactly are you looking for? And he's like, well, I mean, if things keep going this way, like, I want you to eventually be my girlfriend. Like, that's what I'm looking for, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay. And like, I had really strong feelings for him. Like after date 1, like we got along so well right away. And like our first date was so long that I was like, oh, like I really feel good about this. Like I had such a good feeling about it. And after the 3rd date, so that was on like a Friday night, we had been like talking every day for the most part. And then like we'd still talked like normal over that weekend. And then he was always very flirty with me. And then that Monday I was telling a coworker about him. Like I was like, oh, I started seeing this guy. Like I had a really good feeling about it. Like we were just talking about like going on dates, like me and this coworker are the same age and talk about this kind of stuff. And she was like, you know, oh my gosh, you should bring him to the office Christmas party. Like we were just kind of like joking around. And like I was like, yeah, like I was like, who knows? Like I honestly feel like he might really be around by then still. Like this was like last November, like October, November. And so we had like walked home talking about it, and I was just like, ugh, this is so fun. And then I got home and you weren't here. You were at home. And he texted me this text about how like, you know, I'm sorry if he's like, I feel like I made you think that I wanted a girlfriend. And like, I feel like I really like, he basically was like, I am feeling anxious about this because I feel like I need to devote more time to my band. He was in a band, and you know, he had a full-time job and then he had a band, and he was like, I'm devoting more time to my band and things are really taking off for us. And I don't like fully remember this, but basically
I can't have a girlfriend because I need to be a rock star.
The gist was like, I actually don't think I'm ready for a girlfriend. And
even though I said I was.
Right. Even though I specifically said I was. And I think I might have given you the impression that I was ready for that, but I've been feeling really anxious over the weekend because I don't think I'm ready for that. And I was like, what? And so then I immediately texted my coworker who I'd just been talking to about this and was like, oh my God, like what the hell? And so like I was like, did I just jinx this by bringing this up? Like what the heck? And she was like, hold on, here's what you should say to him. Because I was like, I don't even know what to say to this. I was like, I'm so like mad and like hurt because yeah, you gave me the freaking impression you wanted a girlfriend. You literally told me that
it wasn't even an impression. It was verbal
yeah, like I was like,
communication.
what plan are you living on that you're like, oh, I think I might have given you the impression that I wanted that, when you had literally told me.
Yeah.
Like, and he'd also, like, it wasn't just that, he'd also said things like, oh, like when you meet, you know, this person, like referring to a friend, like literally like as if like it was a given that I was going to meet certain people in his life. Like I was like, what? I was so blindsided by this text that I did not know how to respond. I was like, I don't know what to address first. Like, I don't know if I should address like the things that are like blatantly wrong with this, like the fact that the whole like impression thing, or if I should just be like, I should just try to play it cool. Like I was like, I don't know what, like because I don't even at this point, like I don't even know what I want. Like because I'm like, do I even want to try to, like, do I even want to?
Because he's shown his true colors,
right? Like, do I even want to play it cool to potentially like talk this person off the ledge of like dumping me? Like, I don't know. And so my coworker like wrote out this thing for me. She's my friend. I don't know why I keep saying my coworker. I guess it's just yeah. So my friend wrote out this text for me, and I was like, that's exactly how I feel. Like, that's brilliant. And it was basically just saying like, I didn't necessarily expect things to happen so soon, but if you feel like you don't want anything, even like on a longer timeline, then like, yeah, I guess it's good that you told me this now, which is true, because I was sort of like, yeah, I don't expect you to like be my boyfriend right now, but like, yeah, you kind of did say it was going there, but if you don't see it going there at all, then okay, sure. And so I sent that, and then he didn't respond. And a couple days later, I had like really ruminated on this convo, and I was like, you know what? I'm pissed about that, because I had told him about a guy who treated me crappily, and he said to me, he was like, it sucks that guy used you to figure out what he wanted. Like that was like what he said to me. And so I was like, you're so right. Like that is what hurt about that guy, is that it took me for him to realize that he didn't want, you know, such and such. And so I texted him and was just like, this is like the last you're going to hear from me, but I just feel like I need to get this off my chest, and I don't expect you to respond. But the fact that it took you using me and making me feel like something was going to happen for you to decide that you don't want a girlfriend, that sucks. And that's rude and hurtful. Like, I don't remember what I said, but, and that's genuinely how I feel about it, is like, if someone uses you to decide that they actually want to pursue the person that they met 2 weeks before you.
Yeah.
Or if they like, I get his situation to a certain point. Like, maybe he made plans with you, like literally at like right after like a first date with her, and had no idea that it was gonna like progress so fast. But the fact that
he needed to go on a date with me to decide that he wanted to pursue the other girl.
Yeah, like you never had a chance.
Yeah. So it makes me feel like I was just like, he stepped on me to get to a relationship with her. Like I was like a step on his way to get to his new relationship.
Yeah.
I didn't answer my guy's text. So I decided that what would be best for me is to like make him feel the way that he had been making me feel when he wasn't answering me. And so I never answered him. And we were talking about that after too. Like, you were like, do you think it would make you feel better to say something or not to? And I was like, honestly, in this situation, not saying something is my statement.
Yeah.
Like, that's the statement I want to make, that like, I don't think that's worth an answer from me. But I think it really depends on your gut feeling. Like, I think what you did was right for you, and what I did was right for me.
Yeah, it was nagging at me for those few days after, because I was like, because my initial text, remember, was like nice. Like, I was like, oh, like I wasn't expecting anything to happen so soon, but yeah, I mean, I guess if you really don't see it going anywhere, then like, thanks for telling me. Like, I was like nice and understanding, but in real life, I was like so upset,
wrecked.
And so then I felt like, oh my God, this was so funny. So I like, literally, me in real life, he had slept over that Friday night, and so the next day we can like do our laundry at work sometimes, because like we can do it anytime, because of we have machines for that we use for testing.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we also, not only do we have like our testing machines, but then we just have like a standard washer and dryer because like we are always like doing loads of laundry to then test things with. But the next day I was like, fuck this. And I literally brought in like my bedding and like washed all of my bedding. And like, I was so mad.
Clean
like
slate. Well, the equivalent. So like I got my hair cut that day. Like it's just
I
like
was like, I gotta wash my hands of this shit.
Yeah, you kind of gotta like do something to refresh and reset after that.
Yeah, I feel like this is turning more into just like stories of our heartbreak instead of like advice on how to get over someone. But
yeah, I mean, we can talk about like the actual advice and whatever now, but I do feel like it's turned more into like both of these situations were like a blind side.
Yes.
Like it's more like getting over someone when you had no idea you were going to have to get over them so soon.
Yeah, and like I think that it's hard to get over someone when you didn't get to see like the full potential of the relationship, but you had imagined it.
Yep.
So like I have found that it's way easier for me to get over someone if it's played out.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've exhausted the options. I feel detached. Like I have had 2 relationships now. One a really like, I mean, not really long,
yeah,
like,
long term,
but long. And one that was more short lived.
Mm-hmm.
And in both scenarios, by the time it was done, I felt done. Like
mm-hmm.
I knew the potential. Like I knew the greatest potential of the relationship. And I knew the greatest potential of my feelings for that person. And
Mm-hmm.
I'd already realized them. Like
yeah.
in the case of my first and my longest relationship, I, had spent over 3 years with the person. So I knew the best has already happened and it was great. And I love this person, but I am ready to move on. And my feelings aren't going to drastically change from
mm-hmm.
here. Like I've been pretty set in these feelings now, and the truth is, it's like, I think I might have even said it before on this podcast, is like when it comes to things like that, like long-term relationships, often they end after you already have mentally ended them.
Mm-hmm.
Which isn't to say that you're like using the person, but I would say like both me and my ex probably, like, we kind of felt the relationship had ended and we're still in it. And so when we actually ended it, it was like I was already ready to like start meeting new people because I just had already felt detached from it. I already knew that it had run its course. I felt confident in the fact that like there weren't things that they could do or that we could do to make me feel differently about it. And then in my most recent relationship that was shorter, I just knew. I knew from a few months in, I think, but I was sort of in denial about it because I was like, the pandemic was happening. And so I kind of was like, well, maybe things will be different after that. Our honeymoon phase kind of got short, but I just kind of knew. I was like, this isn't, if I don't feel strongly about this right now, I just don't really see myself feeling any stronger. And so that was just, I had to cut it short, and then I was ready to move on. So like I'm now in a relationship, and for a while I would tell Marissa like, oh, I feel funny about the fact that I'm already in a relationship when I was seeing someone a few months ago. But the truth is that like that's what happens when you're like ready to move on from someone naturally. You move on very quickly because you had already mentally moved on from it, and maybe you just hadn't accepted the fact that you'd moved on, which is kind of what happened with me. Like I was moved on from it, and yet I was like still physically in the relationship. So I was like, no, I have to make this work, blah, blah, blah. But then once I actually like cut ties and was like, no, I don't want this anymore, I was like, oh, I actually feel fine because that was the right decision. Like, if anything, I just felt good because I felt like I'd finally made the decision that honored me the most.
Yeah. I was in a similar situation with the only serious relationship that I've been in, which was also a shorter one. So not quite the same, but I remember like spending weeks agonizing over whether or not to break up with him because I was like, oh, I don't know, like this doesn't really feel good anymore. Like I don't really feel like this is going to go anywhere, and I don't want to like fake it or whatever. And so I spent like weeks thinking this way and being like, do I do it? Do I do it? And then I finally did it. And it was like, I felt so much relief because like I had known for a while before it was actually done that it was the right thing to do. So then when that's done, it's like, okay, I did the right thing. And that's a good feeling.
Yeah. And like to other people, it might look sort of funny. Because it's like, oh, you're already dating, or oh, you're already in another relationship. And it's like, yeah, but to me, I was mentally here, like before you saw it. And I remember, I don't know, like my mom also said that to me. Like, she started dating her now fiance, like they met, probably like a year after her and my dad divorced. And she was like, well, by the time you like get divorced and whatnot, like you had to come to like, that's especially when you're ending like a marriage. It's like you have to arrive at that a while before you can actually like get lawyers involved and do paperwork and things like that. And so I was like, yeah, that's kind of how I feel about, you know, my ex, is like I arrived at that sort of decision, that sort of feeling before I was ready to then bring that to them. Like I had to kind of figure it out on my own and then sort of say, hey, I'm kind of feeling this way. And then they were like, oh, I'm also feeling that way.
Yeah. And like I know that it is possible to be in like a serious long-term relationship and be blindsided by the other person if they break up with you, and
definitely,
and you really weren't expecting it. And that's kind of like that traditional like deep heartbreak. But I feel like it's less likely because if you're in a long-term relationship, even if you're not having conversations about the relationship, like those meta, like, is this going anywhere? How do we feel type thing? You probably, chances are, will start to feel like something's off.
Yeah, you're like, you're attuned to like,
them. Like, and, I know, at least for me, like the way that I was acting before I broke up with my ex-boyfriend was like distant.
Yeah.
And then when I broke up with him, he was like, I didn't really want this to happen, but I'm not surprised because of the way you were acting.
Right.
So I feel like that's kind of like when we're talking about like why these like short-term bursts of like hopeful situations can hurt more when they end. It's like there's not enough time to get those inklings.
Yeah,
because
no,
all you've experienced is that like beginning,
the honeymoon
blossoming,
part of it,
fun possibilities phase. Yeah, you're not like living real life with them and like seeing them tired or like low energy and upset or whatever.
Yeah.
So
yeah, like it seems sort of silly to be so upset after one date or 2 dates or 3 dates, but it's like, I don't know what to tell you. That's the most upset I've ever been over people have been short-lived things. Aside from, there was one other situation I was in where that like lasted a couple or a few months, but we were never official, and it was clear that we weren't going to be.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want that, and I also kind of didn't want that. Like I was like, I was like telling myself that I didn't want that, but like I think I really did, or it was sort of like my default mode. Like I'm such a relationship person. I don't know how, like because I don't know. I'm someone who like, I like being affectionate with people that I'm like, you know, being intimate with, I guess. like I it doesn't come natural to me to just like be like physical with someone,
like friends with benefits,
like,
or something.
Yeah, like it doesn't really come natural to me. But I was trying it out, you know.
Yeah.
Girl in her 20s. And that ended up really hurting me. But that was another one of those situations. The thing that really helped me get over that person, and I was really upset over that person, because I just felt like their actions didn't match up with their words. Like they were telling me that they cared about me so much and, you know, blah, blah, but yet like they wouldn't text me back. They wouldn't necessarily initiate things. They didn't want to be in a relationship with me, but they like would be like, but I really like it. They even at one time said to me, they were like, I feel like you're the right person. It's just the wrong time. So maybe in like a couple years we could like link up, and like I feel like you might be like the right person for me. And I was like, what? If I'm really the right person for you, then like why is now not a good time? Like, you know what I mean? Like but I was like, what? Like, you think so? Like, oh my God, I hate that for me. But that person, I was, oh my gosh, that was probably like the most frustrating time because I felt so out of control with that situation, because I was like, I don't want them to, like, I don't want to be with them if they don't want me, but at the same time I want them, and sometimes they're letting me have them, and so like that's better than nothing, and I'd rather have them sometimes than never. And so I was just like going back there and doing that, and like it wasn't, I remember one day it's like they weren't texting me back after something had, like, we'd kind of not gotten in a fight, but like something happened that was kind of like emotional, like emotions were high, things were tense, and they like had said like, I need a little bit of space, I'll text you, and they just like weren't texting me. And I remember I got so frustrated that it was like the first time in my life that well, maybe not the first time, but it was one of the few times in my life that I remember thinking like, I want to punch a wall. Like I like actually want to cause destruction, because I was mad and I felt so restless about it. And I remember crying because the only thing I know how to do, like, I'm not good at being destructive. So like I just cry. I remember my mom came in, she was like, no way, you can't do this. She was like, you got to take your power back. Amazing. Like enough of this. And I was like, thank you. You're so right. I love when my mom tells me that about anything. Like anytime I'm going through something where I'm like kind of emotional or I'm just feeling like not my best self, and my mom tells me you have to take your power back, I am like, yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I just pictured you like with like angel's wings, like flying above the rubble. No, I think this is another point that we had been talking about with this topic, is like, so much of your emotional reaction to this type of thing depends on the place that you're in with yourself. Because like I joke about it all the time on this podcast that like I feel like shitty about the place that my love life is in, and it's like very frustrating this year with like COVID stuff making it even harder. And so like, since I'm feeling in such a low place with that, it kind of bleeds into like my confidence and my like self-worth and all that stuff. So like I acknowledge that like I'm not in the best place with myself in terms of like self-love and that kind of thing. So I know that that's another reason why this really hit me so hard, because I envy and like praise girls who can say like, he doesn't want me, I don't care. He doesn't like, he doesn't know what he's missing. Like, I'm great. He's the one missing out. Like, I wish that I could have had that attitude.
I don't know that anyone actually has that underneath the surface, though.
That's true.
Because I've definitely 100% said those things, but it's either been like a little while after I've been hurt by someone, and therefore I'm not like so emotionally wrapped up in it that I don't, like, I can say those things.
Yeah.
Or I'm like saying those and then I'm like,
like, yeah, that's true. Like people say it, and like when other people are saying it, I'm like, I believe them that they mean it. But it's like, do they even believe that about themselves? Probably not. That's a good point.
But you can still, I mean, it helps. It helps to tell yourself that. So like maybe it's just that they but I don't believe for a second that someone gets a text like I got or like you got and goes, that is so good, because this is telling me that they don't deserve, like, what? Yeah. Who has that reaction when you've spent, nights going to sleep wondering what your first kiss will be like with them? Like,
I do think that the big difference though is like, if you're a girl who, I don't know why I keep saying girl, I should say woman. If you're
a lady,
take our power back. If you're a woman who feels really confident in the way you look, and this is me assuming too, maybe this isn't even true, but I feel like if you're someone who's like very conventionally attractive and very confident about your appearance, you probably don't have much worry about like matching with people on dating apps and like getting dates and stuff. Like, you might worry about like finding your person to like have a connection with and your like deep bond or whatever, but I don't think people who are like really conventionally attractive and know it are like nervous about how long it's going to take to even like land a date again. It's like a fish in the sea thing. Like, some people like genuinely believe that. Like, they're like, yeah, there are lots of people out there for me that I can like, I'll find them and eventually, and like I can try them out or whatever. Like, plenty of fish in the sea. And it's like, I feel like there are not that many fish in the sea for me.
Well, there only has to be one.
I know.
That's the real tea of it.
But my net don't work.
Once. What?
My net don't work.
Your net would be broken. You need a new fishing rod.
Yeah. I don't know.
You're using the wrong bait.
That's just like my overarching point, that like if you're in a really good place with yourself, you might be less hurt by something like that.
Yeah.
Because you define your worth by other things, and you're like, okay, I'll just like distract myself with this, and I know that I'll find someone else soon or whatever. But if you're like in a bad place with all that stuff, you'll be like, well, that was my one chance.
Yeah.
And it got screwed up. So when's my next chance coming?
Yeah. And it is like, you know, when you think that you found someone that you really hit it off with,
that's so hard to do.
Yeah. You can't imagine how, like, that's only happened to me like 3 times.
Yeah.
Which seems like a lot, but one of them's my current boyfriend. I feel like we hit it off like date 1. Like we were like, yes, we were like talking in in weird voices to each other date 1. So like, I'm like, all right, we hit it off. But other than that, it's like, I've met like 2 people who like, I left the first date being like, wow, we got along really well. Like that was enjoyable. That was fun. And so to have like those types of things blow up, it like, so you've also had that happen 3 times. Because yes. Well, so with your ex-boyfriend, your first date, you like hit off right away. And then there was that guy who ghosted you, who you hit it off with, that sucked.
You know what?
That was weird.
That's actually happened to me 4 times, because there was another time it happened where I was thinking about this example when you were talking about your person from last year, like telling you relationship-y language, like I really like you and I want you to meet blah 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 person. I had someone who like I really hit it off with, and they told me those types of things. Like they said like, I really like you, and then I don't quite remember what happened with this one. And what's funny about this particular situation is that we ended up like reconnecting.
Okay.
At
now
different times.
I wanted to make sure. I was like, huh.
Yeah, but like the first time, it was exactly like that. Like it was like we had a really great first date, and I felt really good about it. And then like he was giving me that sort of language, and then I think he texted me something similar to what you got, which was like, I'm not really ready for that. It seems like you are, or whatever. So yeah, it's like when you know what that feels like and you know how rare it is, it's really frustrating to have it happen and then have nothing come of it.
Yeah. And like, I guess it's like not rare if it really happens like 3 or 4 times to like both of us, but it feels like we've both been people who've gone on a lot of dates.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's in the span of like the last
4 years.
More. Cause like all of college plus how long have we been out of college? Almost 3 years.
3 years in May.
Yeah. So yeah. Oh, so you're right then. Like 6 or 7 years.
Well, I said 4, so I guess I'm wrong.
Okay.
But okay, yeah. I mean, I wasn't dating for a lot of college because I was dating one person.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
I would say in the past 6 years that's happened to me 4 times. So it is rare.
Yeah, I feel like it's happened to me 3 times. Because there have been people that I like the person I was talking about who like I wanted to punch a wall after. Like we had a good first date, but like they were like more into me at first than I was into them. Like they like texted me and were like, do you want to get together this weekend? And I was like, no. I was like, I can't. I'm sorry. Like because I was like freaked out by it. I was like, like they like seemed to like really like me right away, and I was like, I liked them. I had a good time, but I was like, I don't know if I'm ready to like. I was kind of like newly out of my long-term relationship. Like they were like my first like testing the waters thing. So I was like, no, I work weekends. I don't want to see a movie. Bye. But yeah, I feel like it's only been like 3 people that I like on date 1. I was like, dude,
yeah,
this is fun. Like I'm having a good ass time with this person.
Well, that's kind of like, speaking of how rare it happens, the most important thing is that it does happen eventually. Like I feel like that's been one of the only things that like is helpful to think about in terms of like a mantra when it comes to my like dating woes. It's like there will be such long stretches where I'm like, wow, I'm really never going to meet someone I like again. And then I
they
do.
come out of nowhere.
Yeah, and it's like, even though it's rare, it exists.
Yes.
So it's like, yeah, it might be really, really annoying to have to wait, but if it happened the second and third time, it can happen a fourth time, it can happen a fifth time.
I think I even said that to you.
Yeah.
With this last guy, I think I said to you, like, it's a good reminder that can happen, that people can be out there that you can have an instant connection with, and like it might not work out because of you or because of them or because of both of you, but you went on a date and felt sparks again, and like the last few dates you'd had before that, you just like left them being like, like if they text me, maybe I'll consider going out with them again, but like I'm not really interested in pursuing it. And so it's kind of like after a while you're like, did something shift in me where like I don't feel that way, like I can't feel that way anymore? But then it's like someone comes into your life and you're like, oh, I was able to feel that again. Like,
yeah, that in terms of like advice, like take home advice, that would be like one of the biggest things for me, that like clearly if it happened once, it can happen again. And like, because that's kind of the most like defeatist thing that I always feel is like, it's never going to happen again. I'm never going to find that again. It's like, but you did when you thought you never would.
Or I think the other thing, maybe you've felt this or maybe you don't, but on top of like the it's never going to happen again, it's like, but I don't want it to happen again with anyone else. I want it to be happening with that person. Like you're like, it might happen. I might go on a great date again, but it's not going to be them. I'm never going to get to have like that type of thing again. And yet you do. Like it's not, or I mean, you don't get them, but it's like, you don't even care about them when you meet the new person.
Eventually.
Yeah. I feel like, this ended up not being like, really like bullet lists of things you can do. But I think that's okay. Like the most important thing to do is just to take care of yourself. Like it, and like let those feelings come, and like let the frustration wash over you, let the sadness wash over you.
And I think a good message to take from this is like, I feel like maybe there are a lot of other people out there who have experienced what we've experienced, and that they like feel way worse after someone that they like barely had anything with. And it's like, no one really talks about that kind of heartbreak. So I feel like when people experience that, they might feel like weird about it and be like, no one's going to understand how awful I feel, because they're going to be like, well, you only went on one date. Like, why are you so sad? But this episode is your proof that like it's very normal to be very upset by that.
Because if you're like me, I am a huge like fantasizer. Like I'm a big daydreamer. As soon as I get like an idea in my head, I daydream about it, I fantasize about it, I play out all different kinds of situations with it. And that's just kind of the person I am. It's something that was pointed out to me a couple of years ago, and I've noticed it ever since then, that like if I get an idea in my head, I like start really daydreaming about it and trying to like actualize it. And so for me, I spend a lot of time thinking about like what could be and things like that, and to then not have that actualized is hard. And
when we were talking about having this be our topic, I think I said that like what hurts the most about this type of situation is that you're grieving the possibility. Like you're grieving the hope that you had that was like ripped away from you.
And it is grief. It's, of course, it's not, the same as someone dying. Of course, like, but that doesn't mean that it's not gonna like, that you're not gonna burst into tears.
Like, and whimper in the kitchen while we were cooking veggie sausage.
Marissa literally, she like took her pan off the heat and was like, I don't even want to eat this anyway. And I literally was like, should I like cook that for her? Because she probably should eat. But yeah, I
was being dramatic.
I forget what I was just gonna say, but I really forget what I was gonna say. But I think like Nope, nothing's there. That's fine. We need to end anyway. Yeah, I would actually love to talk about this more.
Yeah.
This is clearly, like, we're now like a little over an hour. This is clearly a topic we feel a lot about. And I feel like we only really like scratched the surface. Like, we could really dive into to how we felt about
everything.
Those like the people that, you know, you go on a few dates with and you feel this way about, like what we did to kind of get over that.
Yeah, this was a good like foundation for this topic. But
we can talk about more long-term relationships. We can talk about like what it's like dating after one of these types of things, like whether or not you carry like some residual fear from, like, I definitely do that. I carry a lot of anxiety from past relationships into things, and that's like something that I need to work on. So anything else with dating and heartbreak and whatnot, like this is a topic we talk about a lot, so we're happy to do that in the new year. That didn't really come out how I wanted to. I just wanted to say the new year, but then it came out like
the new year.
Yeah,
this was just a good, like, you know, it's a cozy day. It's a little gray. We got our candle. We're just chatting.
Just had a little
bit of a chit chat.
Chatty. Yeah. Okay, well, we love you all. Happy holidays.
Yeah, ring-a-ding-ding.
Happy 2021. We're going to have a new president soon.
Yeah.
We're going to hopefully have a vaccine soon, if not already.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Give me that shot.
I'm picturing this as you listening to it in January. That doesn't make sense.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Shoot it into my arm, Fauci.
Oh. Yeah, there's lots to be hopeful about, lots to be done and undone, as someone said that's not me.
Lots to be grateful for, even when it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, and if you are feeling sad, lonely, anxious, grief filled, or any of those things this holiday season, where our love is with you.
Yeah, and when we say that, like, our DMs are open, we truly mean it. Like, if you are feeling that way or any type of way and you want someone to talk to, like, we literally would always be happy to get true. DMs. So, like, we're always here, truly. I love when people like respond about like a certain episode that they really liked, or like something that like struck them. We are your friends. Or tell us about your worst heartbreak and how you got over it. Yeah. Rank your heartbreak haircuts. Maybe we should do it like a podcast where we like get advice from listeners and talk about like their best advice for heartbreak, and or for certain things, like what they did. Let us know if you want to see that. Okay, thanks everyone. We love you. Outro music. Go. Bye.